Singleton has died. He was just 51. His family asked doctors to turn off the life support machine he'd been dependent on since he suffered a stroke earlier this month. His first film, Boyz in the Hood, led to him being the youngest person nominated for an Academy Award. He's also the first black person to be nominated for Best Director Oscar. Let's speak now to Bobby Rivers, American TV and radio personality and actor. He's in Minneapolis right now. Bobby, I know you, in fact, though, you grew up in the same South Central neighborhood, didn't you? You must have a pretty good idea of the kind of struggles he went through.
Oh, man, yes, I did. I grew up, I was a generation before his. I remember the day that I saw Boyz in the Hood, and I was working in New York City at the time, and I went, and the theater was packed, the crowd was attentive, and I felt like I was tingling with pride because I saw streets that I knew. I saw streets that I walked down, drove on, I spent times with other family members and friends with. John Singleton gave dignity, humanity, and truth to South Central Los Angeles with his film. He lifted up our community, and he held light to it. And that will be his legacy. That will be one of his legacies as a filmmaker.
Bobby, you may know the truth of this. There is a story, isn't there? He was offered something like $100,000 by the studio to walk from Boyz in the Hood because the studio wanted a more experienced director. He said, I'm doing this movie. This is the movie I was born to make. And of course, it went on to make more money per screen, I think, than Terminator 2. And there was a, 20-minute ovation at Cannes when it was first shown?
I love that story. And yes, it's true. And the thing is, my generation, before that, it used to irritate me that the only images that you got of South Central LA were of the Watts riots in the 1960s, and I lived in the curfew area during that time, and the sitcom Sanford and Son. And that was all the media kind of gave people as to an awareness of South Central LA. So you had no idea there were people there who embraced the arts, spent time in libraries, dreamed of going to good films, and dreamed of making good films. And all the films that you saw about our community were mainly directed by white males who did not live in the community. So he was adamant about getting the film made his way, his voice, his vision.
Bobby, of course, everybody talks about Boyz in the Hood. A lot of love out there, just looking now at feeds from Brittany Packnett, from Ava DuVernay, for Higher Learning. A lot of people love that movie.
Higher Learning and Poetic Justice. I mean, look at the people that he brought to the screen, and he gave major acting debuts too, like Neil Long, Oscar winner Cuba Gooding Jr., who went on to win an Oscar, and Regina King, who recently won an Oscar for If Beale Street Could Talk, Tupac Shakur, Maya Angelou, Angela Bassett, Lawrence Fishburne were his films. I mean, people in the black community, we regard them as royalty. And he had them on screen. And maybe he didn't make the same amount of features that a Spike Lee or a Quentin Tarantino made. But the films that he made have great significance. And I feel that, yes, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say, we should remember, of course, he is still, I think, the youngest person to be nominated for a Best Director Oscar. He was, what, 23?
23 or 24 when he got the nomination for Best Director, and the first black person to be nominated for Best Director. That was a major achievement.
Bobby Rivers, thank you so much. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. Lovely to meet you.